you make a decision and then you make the decision right. So that means whether it was the correct decision or not, you do the
Yeah.
damn work until it becomes the right decision. So that's what
Welcome to Insights into Success, where with your host Paul Dodds, we hope to educate, inspire and motivate you to achieve your own personal success. We talk to guests from all around the world from a variety of walks of life to hear the realities of their own journey to success. What challenges have they faced? How have they coped with failure? And what have been the keys or will be the keys to their own success? In our Read to Succeed interviews, we talk books that have inspired our guests, and for some, they share their secrets to marketing success. Join us as we give you insights into success. All right, welcome to Insights into Success, where our special guest today is Frank Sau. Now, I'm going to pass it over to Frank, and I want you to kick it off, Frank, by just giving us a bit of insight into sort of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, man, it's my pleasure to just share my story, Paul, and appreciate you having me on here.
Pleasure.
Yeah, I am a small businessman, entrepreneur. I'm a husband. I'm a father. And most people they want to they might give lip service to legacy, but I am Frank Sell the fourth, and my son's the fifth, and my living father is the third. So there is a
Wow.
standard to uphold when it comes to a name.
And in terms of sort of your business, what exactly do you do these days?
Yeah, so I do multiple businesses. So I started my entrepreneurial journey. And so it's one thing that I've learned over the years. Yes, it may be the entrepreneurial journey, but really I've just been self-employed for the last 23 years.
Right.
About 2003, I quit my job, and as one of my Frankisms or my quotes that I like to say is, I quit my job and I beat the damn street so hard, I swear I get a bill for the potholes. And what that kind of means is that growing up, my dad was self-employed, and growing up through, back in the 1900s, I was born in 75. I'm 50 years old. So we always heard either get an education or get a trade back in those
Yeah.
days. So I knew further education was not a good investment for me. I was bored in school. I hated school, but I was good with my hands. So I I talked to the school counselor, and he suggested I take vocational training and learn how to weld, learn a trade. And I thought,
Yeah.
well, welders are always, they always make pretty decent money, and if you look hard enough, you can, kind of always find a job. So that's what I did. And Valentine's Day 1994 is when I started my last job. I was still 18 years old. The company had a 30-year retirement program, so that meant I could retire at 48. And
Yeah.
I had the golden egg that my parents told me that's what winning was in life. And it wasn't shortly after that I started that job, maybe about 5 years in, I guess you would say my rose-colored glasses got broken because the company got sold, and I was
Yeah.
working for a big manufacturer, and company got sold. And one of the things they always do is change the benefits package to make it look more profitable. And so what they did is they changed retirement to where you had to work until you're 55, no matter what. And so that meant I'd
Right.
have to work as 37 years in a manufacturing environment. And I looked around, and nobody that was doing what I was doing was really very healthy. They didn't have a lifestyle that I wanted. And on
Yeah.
top of that, I was not going to work until I was 50 years old and haven't changed the deal on me again. So I kind of had a decision to make, to either accept what they're willing to give me and just be okay
Yeah.
with it, or do my own thing and beat the streets. And so, as funny stories I had, I was actually being offered advancement within the company at that time. Also, my supervisor came to me, and he wanted to make me a lead person, a foreman in the job. And he
Yeah.
come and approached me several times. But in the meantime, I had kind of made that decision that I was going to own my sovereignty and rely on myself. And so we had a conversation one day. It's pretty frank, and he came up to me and he said, "Hey, Frank, you made a decision yet of whether you want to take that position or not?" I said, "No, I think I'm gonna pass." He's kind of like me. He's kind of a smart ass, and he looked at me and goes, "Well, what's the matter? You don't want to think?" I said, "No, man, you just don't pay enough to think." It's a 50 cent an hour raise. Yeah, so I wasn't going to deal with management's BS or all the employees BS for just 50 cents an hour. I'd clock in and clock out and go home and work on
Yeah.
my side hustle at the time, which was I live in central Kansas, like in the middle of Kansas, Tornado Alley.
Yeah.
And so we have a lot of hailstorms, and that was the trade that I was going into. I literally bought $100 VHS tape uh, on how to learn this trade, bought some used tools, and in my spare time, I taught myself. And in 2003, I just volunteered for a layoff and took off hustling.
And when you said about your new business, what exactly was it that you were doing? What was the VHS tape training you to do?
Yeah, so it's fixing hail damage on cars. Um,
Right.
it's
Okay.
a process called paintless dent repair. We can repair the cars
Yeah.
without having to needing to paint them. It's a lot quicker process. You maintain the factory value of the car. Just a lot of really neat stuff about it.
Yeah. And so you said earlier that your dad was self-employed. What was his background like? What did he do in his career?
Yeah, so my dad's he's always been a hustler. Yes, since he was 14 years old, he left home because his home environment wasn't very good. So he was just a scrapper. He always just found a way to make it work. But he was a truck mechanic. He had his own small
Yeah.
truck shop and generally just worked by himself, since 1977. So I was 2 years old when he started that.
And do you think that his career doing that, do you think that inspired you to do your own thing as well, or didn't really have any bearing on your decision?
Oh, 100%. It had all the bearing in the world because my mentality was I'm Frank F and sell, because our small vicinity, our small area, that kind of meant something. And
Yeah.
so by watching him do it, that really, gave me credibility and also just some inspiration that this is you just one of the things I like to say is that you make a decision and then you make the decision right. So that means whether it was the correct decision or not, you do the
Yeah.
damn work until it becomes the right decision. So that's what I saw my dad do growing up, and that's what I've done, and that's what I'm really proud that my kids they follow that example as well.
Yeah, I like that comment. It's an interesting comment you've just made. So really, you're taking the view when you make a decision, you just got to accept it, own it, and make the best of it, and just make it work. Whereas a lot of people, they make a decision, and then afterwards, there's a lot of sort of reflection and procrastination and wonderment about whether they've done the right thing or not, and that. But you're just very much whatever you do, just do it and get on with it and make the most of it and don't look back.
Yeah, procrastination is just a killer. So that's kind of like this book. You asked me about books. It's like the
Yeah.
magic of thinking big. One big takeaway from that for me was the action cures fear. So just if you don't know what to do, do something, and then the next step will appear. You just have to figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, and that's an interesting comment as well too. I mean, a lot of feedback I get from people where they say one of the tips to people is, look, just go out there and do something. Don't wait to make it perfect. You're better to get out there and actually just get going and do something. And you can improve it along the way. But if you're waiting to perfect something before you actually start doing it, then you're missing out, and it may not happen, and yeah, you just might miss your opportunity.
Yeah, so I got a perfect example of that. So we started a coffee brand in 2020. Um,
Yeah.
and that I had no idea how to start a coffee brand, how to roast coffee, how to make canned coffee, none of that stuff. I had no idea. But what I
Yeah.
did is 2017, I knew that I had been successful with my hail damage business, which I still run that business. That's still my main
Yeah.
income source.
Yeah.
Um, but generally growing up in that self-employment environment, almost everybody they ride that bus all the way off the cliff. They have no
Right.
exit plan, they don't have an
Yeah.
asset to sell. You are the
Yeah.
business. So because I'd had some um say some learnable moments in relationships, meaning I got, marriages that didn't work out the way I thought they would.
Yeah.
Just had a lot of things that I wasn't able to be disciplined and put away money for retirement or make investments in property, real estate,
Yeah.
different things. So those opportunities, I decided, hey, I want to start something online. And so I started a Facebook page called Home of the Hustle, where I could do like we're doing here. Facebook
Yeah.
Live was really popular at the time. And so I would interview like guys like you or guys, people that do marketing or e-commerce or that have been successful, people with fruit on the tree. I would
Yeah.
interview them. And so that way I could gain a network of people that knew what they're doing and then also build an audience because as I was getting the information, I was also flowing that out to an audience so that they could get the information too. And that kind
Sure.
of with social media, it's so funny. You can be a knucklehead, but if you're willing to speak up, then you're an influencer or you build an audience. And so that's what we kind of built an audience of loyal followers. And my first brand that I started was actually a beard oil brand. Uh,
Yeah.
the first attempt at the beard oil, uh, the first time I used it, I slept
Yeah.
really good. And so when I asked why did that happen, it was the essential oils that were in it, and it just kind of dawned on me. So my brain works in a way where I just really simplify things, and so I just
Yeah.
said, well, it's like a facial diffuser, so we can make no beard oils that are in the marketplace. If they're a natural beard oil, they market fake machismo, like a whiskey barrel scent or a tobacco or something kind of that's supposed to sound manly, but they're
Yeah.
totally missing the therapeutic effect of the essential oils. So we had like a nighttime beard oil that would help you relax and go to sleep. I would get guys that would message me when they hold their infant next to the beard, they would calm down and go to sleep. And
Wow.
then we had a daytime one that was called Get Shit Done, had peppermint, some cedar woods, this stuff kind of helped wake you up and help you focus.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Yeah.
so that's where Get Shit Done comes from, which you can see behind me if you're watching us on YouTube. Get Shit Done is the name of the coffee. So how that came about is I have a phrase and I just call it like show up, find friends that want to do cool shit and get shit done. And what that means is to show up without a hidden agenda or intention as your
Yeah.
true self and
Yeah.
just pay attention to the people that align with you. And so I met some guys that have a co-packing company here in Wichita, Kansas. I'm just outside of Wichita, and they had a co-packing company. They had some little beards. They had some baby beards, and I like coffee. They had beards, so I bought some coffee from them. They bought beard oil for me. And one day I had a bag of their coffee sitting on my desk. Um, gosh, I don't know where my sticker went. So I had a bag of coffee sitting on my desk, and I just put a sticker on the back of the coffee that said "Get shit done." That was a
Yeah.
part of the beard oil business, and I posted that on Facebook. And because I'd had this Home of the Hustle audience, people right and left were like, "Dude, are you selling Get Shit Done coffee? How do I buy that?" And so I just started selling it to them, and I called my friend, said, "Hey, people want to buy this coffee as Get Shit Done. Can I private label your coffee?" And they're like, "Well, yeah, that's what we do." So I started selling their coffee beans and the coffee grinds as Get Shit Done coffee.
Yeah.
And eventually I asked them, I said, well, how do I make a canned coffee? And so if you're watching this on YouTube, I just keeping it simple. It's like you
Yeah.
can see the back of this can is silver. This was their brand of coffee, but I
Right.
took a label off of the bag of coffee and stuck it on here so I could visualize this. I could hold it in my
Yeah.
hand and I could see it. I could see people putting this on their toolbox, on their desktop, and just really, number one, drinking a can of Get Shit Done. But number two, the surprising thing is that it is world class, very good coffee. Uh, and so, really, the coffee is just a commodity, but it's a way for me. I'm Frank Sell, and what I'm selling is my story because it's all tied into the branding. Where on the
Yeah.
can it says beat the street so hard they send you a bill for the potholes. That's how I explain entrepreneurship and business. On the side of the can, it says do it scared until you can do it skilled. That's just something, a conversation I was having with a friend about business. And that's just
Yeah.
how I spoke about it because my thought process was I've raced motocross for, I don't know, 25 years and we'll hit 100-foot jump. Well, the first time that we jumped that, we're scared. We use our
Yeah.
best
Sure.
judgment to do this jump. But the 100th time that I'm doing that jump, I'm relaxing because when I'm in the air over 100-foot jump, I can't do a damn thing about it. I might as well enjoy the ride. I relax my hands. I can look around. I can breathe. So that's where you make a decision and figure it out. There's a lot of adjustments even when you're in the air that you can make and prepare for your landing.
Yeah. So in terms of the coffee, how do you market it, and where all can you get it from? Is it like throughout America, just in Kansas, or tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's throughout America. I have sent some product overseas. Most of it is to veterans or people that are deployed, and so I've sent some to South Korea, all over the place, Italy, through the USO or APO service. But we have most of it is online through our website, thehomeofthehustle.com. And what
Yeah,
I did is I tried to model what worked with the hail damage business. So I know the first 3 years, I had no clue what I was doing other than I was going to do it until I succeeded. And so I just learned along the way. So I kind of gave myself a footprint or a path of, give myself 3 to 5 years to really start pouring down, putting gasoline on the fire. And so what that means is that we just showed up and find friends who want to do cool shit. So I raced motocross. We would take it and we would go out to
yeah,
motocross races that I was attending and do an in-person vendor demo and sales. So the first
yeah,
4 years or so, that was my main focus because I know that you're going to have to pay regardless. I'm either going to have to pay Meta or Google to push ads, or I can
yeah,
pay to show up and sell it in person. And so the really one of the benefits of doing that was I was able to get instant feedback from people when they pick up the can. At first I didn't even say coffee on it. It just said get shit done. And so I kept hearing people say, well, what is it? What then I have to reverse engineer and think like a customer, think like somebody
yeah,
that's never seen my product and explain it. So we added the coffee.co on the label so that they can pick it up, say, oh, this is coffee. So we just learned a lot by selling it in person. And that also
yeah.
built up a story and it built up content so that when we start running ads, we have more history that people can go back and look at and say, oh, well, these guys are legitimate. Oh, they are out doing this and doing that.
So these days, like, do you just run like social media ads and things like that, or do you do any like TV stuff, or yeah, how does your marketing look these days?
Yeah, so right now we're focused on Meta. That seems to be our best conversion.
Yeah,
Working on TikTok and other stuff. I mean, everybody knows how sales are going on TikTok. Um, and so what I've kind of learned through the process is I'm just learning as I go. Um, so right now we have a few thousand customers. And
yeah,
so those are customers that we had to basically pay for. We either had to pay for by showing up to different events, or we had to
yeah,
pay Meta to run ads to acquire those customers. And
yeah,
so one of the things as an e-commerce business owner is the asset isn't necessarily like this can of coffee. The asset is the customer. So on the back end of the
yeah,
machine, now I'm working on setting up different email campaigns. So if somebody buys a 4-pack of coffee, they get a specific email campaign. If somebody just stopped by and looked at it, they get a certain email campaign. So I'm really working on servicing the customers that we've already acquired, um,
yeah.
to help monetize and make sure that we're serving them right, and as well as serving the business to its potential.
And in terms of doing that sort of work, do you engage a third party to do that, to do your email marketing and that for you, or is that something you've learned to do yourself and you do it in house?
We're doing it in-house right now. The email part, I have not hired an agency or hired anybody to do that yet. One
Yeah.
things I like to do is, I like to frank it up myself. And so that way, by getting my hands dirty and going in there and getting an understanding, at least I have a basic understanding to be able to ask better questions when I
Yeah.
do go find a service provider or find somebody that can help me with that.
Yeah. And in terms of your dent removal business, do you get involved in that these days, or do you just have people doing that for you and you just manage it?
Nope, I'm hands on every day in that business. It's like the coffee brand. It's something I can set up ads and then check it once or twice a week.
Yeah.
But the hail damage business is still my main income source. It's
Yeah.
a very profitable because there's no consumables other than your talent and your time.
Yeah.
So it's just labor, and so it's a pretty profitable business, and it's served my family really well. So
Yeah.
I'm still daily involved in that. There are some things. There's another book called Acres of Diamonds. Russell Conwell, he talks about, like there's a farmer in South Africa. Um, you know, Forget about the rugby team. I know being an Aussie.
Ah,
But yeah, so Russell Conwell in his book Acres of Diamonds talks about this farmer in South Africa that I can't remember the time frame, but there, when diamonds were discovered in South Africa, everybody wanted to get rich mining diamonds. So this
right.
farmer sold his farm. The guy that bought his farm, uh, he had a friend of his come by one day, and he had this giant rock up on his fireplace mantle. Well, his friend was a diamond miner, and he asked him where he got that rock, and he said, "Well, down by the river on my property that I bought from this
Yeah.
farmer that went to
Right.
go look for diamonds." Well, this guy, he said, "That's one of the biggest diamonds I've ever seen." And
Ah,
so what the story was, what the meaning of the story was, that this farmer was sitting on acres of diamonds, but he didn't know what he was looking for. He didn't know how to extract the value out of what he's already doing. And
yeah.
so why I say that is we have the hail repair business, and then I'm working on a marketing business, a lead generation business to go with that. So that way I've made my own websites, my own domain and so on to generate leads that way I can then eventually market that business. So it's a local hailrepair.com, and what we can do is do a forward slash and say like Dallas or
Yeah.
forward slash Chicago, and we can
Then for like
market,
franchise it.
yeah, franchise it, or just sell leads. There's so many different ways we can do with that. So
Right.
that's a skill and a talent and a business that I already know, and I have not extracted all the value out of that yet. So that's why I say that story.
So for you though, the challenge must be though just to have enough time to do it all because you're doing so much as it is. So you only got a certain number of hours in the day to that you'll be able to do it. So yeah, how's that for you?
Um, it gets tough. Luckily, my wife, she's right beside me most of the time, helping out with that stuff. And then
Yeah,
also I have a virtual assistant, that she's been with me for years and years. And really,
yeah,
I read or listened to the audiobook of Dan Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time. And so really started implementing and handing off tasks that aren't at my, I guess would say, like my level. There are things that I don't really need to be doing. I
yeah,
can hand those off to her, and
yeah,
we really work on a system that, for the communication, she understands what I want, what I need, and we just work really well together. So she takes a lot of that stuff off my plate, and I can handle the
yeah,
things that I need to handle.
yeah. And with your beard oil business, is that still going, or is that something you phased down? What's happened with that?
So the website is still up, but it's not active. It's just parked. What I kind of
Yeah,
noticed with that, and one reason I was really excited about the coffee is I noticed with the beard oil, a guy buys beard oil maybe once or twice a year.
right.
So the recurring revenue is not there.
Yeah,
Um, and so once the coffee started taking off, and it was really effortless in the beginning, I said, okay, it's one or the other. And so the
yeah,
coffee business, what I really love about it, my gratitude for it, is it taught me branding. It taught me more
yeah,
e-commerce stuff. It taught me
yeah,
better questions to ask moving into my next project.
yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, the beard oil is something you might be able to sell into your database over time going forward anyway. But like you said, the other one is something that people are going to need on a much more frequent basis. So makes sense that you'd focus on that.
Mhm.
So tell me, looking back, what have been some of your key challenges that you've had trying to go out and work for yourself like you have?
So for me, so if your audience, if they read the book, The E-Myth, they'll understand that, there's really three things you have to do. You have to be the entrepreneur that goes and gets the business. You have to be a technician that does the business, and then a manager that manages the back end, billing, invoicing, all that different stuff. And so
Yeah,
part of it is kind of understanding yourself and realizing what parts you enjoy, and then hiring out the rest of it. So for me, I enjoy the hustle, the entrepreneur, going out and getting the business, talking to people, the challenge
yeah,
of winning them over, uh,
yeah,
and the technician, the trade side, especially with fixing the hail damage. It's working with your hands, and it's a very unique talent or skill. So I just really enjoy the finished product, the challenge of repairing these cars. So you just have to kind of, one of the biggest challenges is really just minding your business. And that means, looking at your numbers, having some stuff set aside for retirement, having stuff set aside for, mishaps, whatever may happen, set of stuff aside for taxes. So it's that side for me is the challenging part. Having to sit down in front of a desk and do that.
yeah. And so with the hail damage business, do you employ other people, or is it just you that does it?
Yeah, mostly it's me. It's a really awesome business because if you don't want to have employees, you don't have to. It relies a lot on network and subcontractors. So right
Right.
now, I have a couple guys that are helping me out temporarily because we've had some
Yeah,
storms, and so we have a lot of business coming in. I'm not able to
yeah,
handle it all. I've worked with these
yeah,
guys before. I know them personally. I know their talent level. I know their ethics.
yeah,
So really, I get to work with people that I know, like, and trust, and so it's really enjoyable.
yeah, yeah. And now one thing I read in your notes that I wanted to ask you about, where you talk about the concept of making your own luck. Do you want to tell me a bit about your view on that?
Yeah, it's everybody hears about it. Work hard enough. They call you lucky or laboring under correct knowledge. Um, but it goes back to that statement of make a decision and then make it right. And so really, it's just about showing up, but also it's about equipping yourself because there's a book out there called Dollars Want Me, and one of the main things I picked up out of this book, it says that God is my supply and my supply is abundant. And it talks about a lot about how dollars want to be used, dollars want to be enjoyed, dollars want to multiply, all these different things. But that statement that God is my supply and my supply is abundant, what that tells me is that God created everything
Yeah,
except the version of you and me that is at the level we want to be, the status, whatever it is in life. We don't align with that yet. So that means for me, all the pieces are out there, just like this coffee. This coffee was sitting there in the wings, just waiting until I showed up,
yeah,
saw the opportunity, and then took action. So the opportunity is out there for everybody. It's either going to get caught by you or caught by somebody willing to take action on the idea.
yeah. No, no, good way to look at it. So, what do you think have been some of the key lessons that you've learnt so far in your entrepreneurial journey?
For myself and what I see from other people as well is a
Mm,
lot of people like to overcomplicate things. And really for me, one of the main principles that I work off of is, people will go around and they'll ask 20 friends or 10 people about their business idea or something. Most of the time, these people that they're asking, they don't have fruit on the tree. They're in the same job, they're your football buddies, they're your rugby buddies or whatever,
yeah,
but they don't have results in life where of what you want to do.
yeah,
And the other thing is that people willing to hand you money for your product or idea are the only validation that you really need, and you can adjust and keep moving and growing from there. People want to think they have to have a business plan, have to have all this stuff written out, have to have bank
yeah,
notes. No, you just I put a sticker on a damn bag of coffee and people wanted to buy it and I sold it to them. That's
yeah.
how it started. And so people willing to hand you money for your product or idea, that's really the only validation you need. And then you can fine tune it from there.
And what do you think are some of the big obstacles that hold people back from going out and doing what you're doing and setting up their own businesses?
It's just like the book of Magic and Thinking Big says, it's the action part. It's the fear of what are people going to think. What if I don't make it? It's just yourself, your own mentality, and it's something I call it. Who's thinking are you thinking? Because most of us don't grow up like I did, where my dad was self-employed. So their thinking is get a safe, secure job. I did that. I got a safe job, and it wasn't so safe.
Yeah,
So it's really just a shift in perception on the world, and realize, when I quit my job, I told myself I can rely on me. I won't quit. I won't stop.
yeah, yeah,
So people just have to develop that mindset, and it's easier nowadays because you can go to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and just find people that are succeeding in the same area, same ideas or similar ideas, and you
yeah,
can borrow credibility from them. That's why I say I'm not selling coffee. I'm selling inspiration. I'm selling my story of I bought $100 VHS tape, quit my job, and I beat the damn street so hard. I swear I get a bill for the potholes. I had yellow pages back then. We didn't have Google or anything.
yeah, yeah.
You actually had to call somebody, and you had to go see them.
And for you, like, did you have any really tough times, any sort of dark times when you wondered whether you were going to make it at all, or yeah, how challenging has it been for you at times?
Yeah, challenges they never stop coming. So there's definitely been some challenging times. And then part of that was family stuff. I had to fight custody to keep my kids safe. There was a lot of stuff there that I had to deal with while I'm trying to run a business, while I'm trying to start and grow another business. Um, and so really you just kind of have to figure out what's important now. What's the thing I have to do now? Because you can get yourself overwhelmed with all the shit that you have to do or you think you need to do, but
Yeah,
really there's only one or two things that you need to focus on, either for survival or for to strive and go to the next level. So it's kind of just getting understanding. Yeah, I've been in foreclosure, I've had vehicles repossessed, because these things were just so sideways in life. But at the end of the day, I realized I am the magic because I'm the one that's made it happen so far. So
yeah.
it's all my fault. It's also all my responsibility, and I take ownership of it and use that as fuel to just move forward with a better lens in life and more knowledge to be able to apply to future decisions.
So do you think that you came into business like with a strong mental approach, like or is it something that's evolved? Because it seems to me to succeed in business on your own, you've really got to be mentally quite strong because you're going to have a lot of challenges, and it's that ability to get through that without allowing it to become all consuming. And there's
Mhm.
certainly you can have a series of things that go wrong in succession, which if you want to allow yourself to, you can tell yourself that this is an indication that things aren't working and maybe it's time to quit. So for you, would you describe yourself as mentally a pretty strong person, or is that something you think you've evolved more into? And what's your take on the whole mental element to success in business?
I would say like the shadow side to that mentally strong is also ignorance because I didn't know what I didn't know. Um,
Right.
and so, so a lot of times you don't know what you don't know, but you're just going for it anyways.
Yeah.
So that's part of making a decision and making it right is the mental fortitude. So yeah, when I started business, I had no business degree. I had no college education. I was a welder when I started my business. I had no
Yeah.
business plan. Only thing I had was an example that my dad was self-employed, made a living with his hands and his knowledge working on trucks.
Yeah.
So it was the I blissful ignorance that I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know
Yeah.
so many things about sales, the process, business and marketing, and the whole backside of, how do you structure your business? How do you do things to where you can lower your tax liability? How do you do things that can produce profits instead of income? I learned the different nuances between language, because when I started
Mm.
my first business, I had my big goal was I wanted to make $100,000 a year, because that's
Yeah.
where I was at 20 years ago. That was a lot of money. That's a decent amount of money today. But
Yeah.
if I knew then what I know now, I would have said I want to make $1 million, because I flew past 100 grand a long time ago.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's that you have to have a level of ignorance and be okay with it, and know that everything is created except for the version of you that understands it and sees it.
Yeah, it's an interesting point bringing up about the level of ignorance, and I've seen that time and time again, where I think people have acknowledged that if they truly knew what they were getting themselves into, they would never have done it. But by
Mhm.
having a bit of ignorance, they went ahead and did it, and they coped with it, they dealt with it, and they succeeded. So I think there's definitely some credibility to the suggestion that a degree of ignorance, so long as it's not too extreme, could actually be helpful in your journey as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I live an example of it.
And so for you, was there ever a point in time when you were close to quitting, or that was never an option? You just always, just no matter what, just keep pushing hard forward.
There was a time definitely when I may not have displayed enough gratitude for, especially like the hail damage business,
Yeah,
because I kind of, I don't know if I was lying to myself or I just didn't know what I didn't know, but I really wanted to push on like the coffee brand or other things to try
yeah,
and scale those and grow those, so that
yeah,
I wouldn't have to rely on the hail damage business, when really, if I internally express my gratitude for this gift, because it's an incredible business. It makes a great lifestyle, provides for my family really well. It's not terribly hard on the body. I'm 50 years old. I
yeah,
can do this, till I'm 65, 70. Um,
yeah,
so, sometimes you want to maybe let off the gas pedal for what you're currently doing to kind of hop into something else. Um, so yeah, there's been some times where, I just, I don't, so, self-doubt, but then also just not gratitude for what got me here, to this
yeah.
point.
Do you think that people often are susceptible to that, as in not being grateful for what they've got, always looking for more, but not actually appreciating what they already have?
Oh yeah, I mean, kids are a perfect example of that. They always want the new toy or the new shiny thing. Um,
Yeah,
and we're exactly, as adults, we're pretty much the same most of the time. We look at, our neighbors and what they have, or somebody that succeeded with something that you thought you wanted to do, but you didn't take action, and they either had a level of ignorance or they just had a level of faith, and took off and did it. So it's tough sometimes to, kind of realize the gift that we've received, um,
yeah,
because no matter what it is, you you can do the work long enough, and if you're pay attention, measure things, you can turn the ship around and make that a profitable, so yeah, there's definitely times where I've questioned it, and doubted it, and then turned
mm,
around and realized that, well, maybe I should, buy this first thing, some chocolates and some roses, and show some appreciation,
yeah.
and really, try to maximize what I'm already doing.
And tell me, so looking forward to, say, like in 5 years' time, what would you like your business empire to look like?
I had somebody ask me one time. I was at an event called Million Cups. They have them all over the U.S. every week, and I was presenting, I was talking about the coffee business, how I transitioned from the beard oil to the coffee brand.
Yeah.
And this was a younger guy, he's in his early 20s, and he asked me a question, well, what's my exit plan? And I think he thought that was a really good, intelligent question, which it was a good question. But my answer was, I want to kiss my baby under all the stars all around the world and go ride dirt bikes with my kids. So at the end of the day, we do these things for a feeling, for you know accomplishments, and it's
Yeah.
not necessarily the money. The money is just a means to an end. um,
Sure.
so the long-term goal was to be able to provide a lifestyle, and it goes back to that comment of changing my perception and my outlook on money. And it comes from Jim Rohn. He's a great old speaker. But he always said profits are better than wages. And so that means just learning how to sell something, and especially something that is recurring. So once you acquire the customer, and as you nurture that customer, keep the relationship in good standings, they
Yeah.
continue to buy your product. And so that's what they call mailbox money. And so for me, I've done network marketing, other things, but at the end of the day, that was one of the things that taught me is owning my own brand, doing my own thing, is the way for me.
Yeah. And so tell me, just to sort of wrap this up, like, what would be your tips for anyone wanting to become an entrepreneur? Well, what are some key lessons that you've learned that you'd like to share with them?
Oh, we actually created a playbook for your audience that they can go check out. It's like for me, I didn't understand or realize that I was doing this until I actually got into network marketing, is where I learned this. But it's like a 5-step process. Really, it's, number one is know what you want. What do
Yep.
you want? What emotionally just like triggers you, makes you happy? So number one, know what you want, because God can't present it to you unless you know what you want. It's already out there, but you have to understand, know what you want, and that emotion will drive you. And then number two, make a list make a list of people that maybe can you can fix their problem, you can solve something for them, you can provide a product for them, and then find a way to contact those people, reach out to them, go see them, call them, message them, whatever method they like to be messaged to. Find figure that out, and then message them, and then just keep repeating that cycle. So they're either going to be a
Yep.
yes, they're going to be a no, they're going to be a maybe. And so you put them in different baskets, and then eventually you get your basket gets kind of filled up. And so that's where nowadays, with the hail damage business, I tell people I work with first ring customers only. Do you people have heard like 5 star or something like that? Well, first ring customer for me is I'll answer the phone on the first ring, because I know it's good business for both of us. It's a win-win situation. And so those are the
Yep.
people that I want to work with. So over time, you'll kind of refine that list of people that you want to work with. You'll better understand where your profit comes from, and the easier way to make money. And so just that's a list that kind of gets you started. And then from there you can adjust or do your own thing. But that's kind of the way to get the ball rolling and get things moving.
Yeah. And I guess finally, the question I want to ask is, if you met a younger version of yourself, what advice would you give a younger version of yourself?
Just keep going. Just keep going. There's there's I've seen in my personal life, that there is not really there's not a good, there's not a bad, there's just things happen. What we do about
Yeah.
it makes a difference. So I asked my son one day, and I challenged all the parents out there, if your kids are teenagers or so on, I challenge you just to say, ask your kids, what's one thing you've learned from me? And when I asked my son that question, without missing a beat, he said, "No matter what, Dad, we figure it out."
Nice. It's a good answer.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
no,
thank
really
you.
good answer.
I really love your questions. I mean, this because I watched some of your videos and some of your podcasts, and just your insight and the way your mind works to ask questions. I love how you operate.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it, and I've really enjoyed talking to you too. And it's great to see what you're doing and the legacy you're creating, and also carrying on the name as well too. Let's not forget that. But I'll be very interested to see how you go going forward. So, just to share with us, and I'll put it in on the website and that too. But do you want to just share with us your contact details if people want to reach out to you?
Yeah, so our website is homeofthehustle.com, and you can put /playbook on there, and that'll send you to a download page where you can kind of download the playbook, the 5 steps, and a little. I explain it a little bit more, and there's
Yeah.
also a discount on there for the coffee if you would like to purchase some coffee.
Fantastic. All right, Frank. Well, thank you so much for this. You've agreed to stay on. We're going to do a quick read to succeed segment in a moment. But for this interview, really appreciate it. It's been very insightful, and I think you've shared some very valuable tips for people. So I hope people listen and take on board what you've suggested. So thank you so much, and we'll talk and read to succeed very shortly.
It's totally my pleasure. Thank you.